So for this month's Maker Talk, we have Amy Einhaus of One House Beads, and she's going to give us a little lecture and a demo on how to wire wrap jewelry. So take it away, Amy.
Thank you so much for having me today, and thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it. Today I'm going to talk about wire-wrapped jewelry, a little bit about myself. My name is Amy Einhaus. I'm the owner and creator behind One House Beads. I've been making jewelry for a long time. I started in the 80s making friendship bracelets with my sister, as one does, and I got a bucket of beads from my cousin when I was like 8, and it was like imprinted in my soul to make jewelry. My first paycheck, I bought beads when I was 16. But in 2005 was kind of the beginning of my current journey into jewelry making. I went to a craft fair. I saw an artist whose work I really loved. It was really simple, classic, elegant, and I said to myself, I think I can teach myself that technique. And I did. I bought like 5 pairs of earrings from her, and what that artist was doing was she used wire wrapping techniques, and that was kind of the beginning of my journey into using metal and wire as a jewelry medium. So that was when YouTube was in its infancy. I scoured the internet for PDFs, like instructions, and I just practiced. That's all I did. I had a full-time job at the time, and my friends and coworkers said, hey, can you make us some jewelry? They asked for some custom pieces, and that was kind of the beginning of my business. That in 2007, I opened up my first Etsy shop. I had my first in-person market, and it's all kind of expanded from there. I sell my jewelry online. I sell at in-person markets, and I've had my jewelry in some shops in Maryland and some in Massachusetts, which is where I'm actually originally from. So it's been quite a ride, and it's been a really nice journey that has actually led me here to you today, so I appreciate it. Can I take a temperature of the room? Do any of you make jewelry already? No, you're just here to learn?
Shaking heads.
Awesome. Okay, that's great. That's perfect. So what do I mean by wire wrapping? It's exactly what it sounds like. I take wire, you bend it around itself, around other beads, around other findings to create whole new pieces of jewelry or a component of a piece of jewelry. So today I'm going to talk about basic wire wrapping techniques that you can take and build upon to make more creative and complicated pieces. But they don't really have to be complicated to be beautiful, honestly. In so many of my pieces, I use what's called a wire wrapped loop. And that's wire that's bent in a loop shape that's closed by wrapping the wire around its base. That's in comparison to a simple loop, which is just a piece of wire where there's a loop that's bent, but it's not closed. So the wire wrap loop is much more secure, a much more secure loop. I think it's a little prettier, but there is a purpose for a simple loop as well. So up here I have some pieces that I've made. This one is 2 wire wrap pendants. I'm actually going to show you a little bit later. I'll do a live demonstration on how to make these. These are some crystals that I wrapped some wire around to create just really simple, pretty earrings. In the middle there, I used wire and beads I wrapped the wire around that sterling silver teardrop frame to create, again, just simple, but in my opinion, pretty earrings. The one on the bottom right is, I actually have that one here today, a wire-wrapped focal bead. So it's a wire-wrapped necklace that's made of sea glass, and then that the middle bead is, it's like a core of wire, and then I took other wire, like a smaller, thinner wire, and wrapped it around to create that focal bead. And then the one on the top is a wire-wrapped bracelet, where I used the technique that I will also show you. I'm going to show you how to make a wire-wrapped loop, and I took that technique and created a wire-wrapped chain. Okay. So what to consider when you're choosing wire? There's 4 things that you need to consider when you're choosing wire: material, size, temper, and shape. So first, material. Depending on what kind of piece that you're working on, you have a couple choices for wire material. There's precious metal wire, and then there's craft wire that you can buy at your local craft store. The 2 most common precious metals are sterling silver and gold filled. I'm sure that you've heard of sterling silver. I won't belabor that, but gold filled wire, I'll explain what that is. So gold filled is, it's kind of, in my opinion, the nicest you can get without getting solid gold. I don't think anyone at this level of jewelry making is using solid gold wire. But so what it is it's a base metal that is, there's real gold that's bonded on top of it. So you have 12 karat, 14 karat, 20 karat gold that's just literally bonded on top of that base metal. So it's not going to flake off like a plating might. So then there's craft wire, and there is so much to choose from. It can almost be overwhelming if you're going to try to choose a craft wire. When you go to the store, when you look online, there's a lot of different kinds. I have a couple that I recommend that I choose, that I've used in the past and that I currently use. So I really like Beadalon wire, Beadsmith wire, Artistic wire. To me, those are kind of the best of the craft store brands. So you kind of know what you're getting when you use those brands. I look for tarnish resistant or non-tarnish wire when I get that craft wire. Okay. So size. So the next thing to consider is the size of your wire. So the important thing to know is that wire is measured in gauges. So the higher the number, the thinner the wire. So you see here this picture, I have 18 to 26 gauge wire. That's actually the most common range for wire wrapping. And you'll notice that the 18 gauge wire is much thicker than the 26 gauge wire. I personally, for my pieces, reach for 24 gauge, almost always with 20 gauge coming in a close second. When you're choosing your size, obviously it depends on what materials you're using. I use a lot of kind of smaller beads, smaller gemstones, and I think the 24 gauge works best with that. Even though sometimes I might think 26 would complement the smaller stones better, I also have to consider that this is a bracelet, say, and this is going to get a lot of wear and tear, right? It's going to get, that's just what happens with bracelets. So the 26 gauge is also a flimsier wire. So I want to say, okay, so the 24 gauge is going to have a bigger, like a heft to it that's going to stand up better with, like, for what a bracelet would endure. So there's just like things you have to go through, and it's, you know what, there's not a big deal if you pick the wrong wire. I've done that many times with projects where I make something and I say, oh, the size kind of looks off, it looks a little beefy or a little flimsy, and you just have to remake it. That's okay. It's all trial and error, no problem. All right. So the third thing that you want to consider with wire is temper. So wire comes in tempers, which means different levels of hardness and softness. You'll see the most common wire tempers that you're going to come across for both precious metal and craft wires are dead soft, half hard, which is also called medium, and hard. All of the wire that I use only half hard or medium temper. I think that half hard metal it's malleable enough to work with, but it's not so soft that your design is going to bend out of shape. You can, let's see. So you'll notice when you're working with wire that it actually becomes harder the more that you manipulate wire. So when you're twisting and wrapping your wire, it just gets stiffer. That's called work hardening. A lot of times when you're making jewelry, that's actually a good thing. You don't want your design to you want it to keep its shape. So sometimes you'll find when you're wrapping something and you make a mistake and you want to undo it, it's actually really hard because it's already, that wire has become stiffer than when you first started working with it. So sometimes you might just have to just start over. Excuse me. You can also purposefully work hard in something. Sometimes it like works in your favor. So I have a picture here of a hammer and a bench block. And these are definitely non-essential tools. You do not need these for wire wrapping, but I just want to make you aware of them. So if you have a piece of wire that you think is a little too soft, you can actually take a hammer to it, preferably a non-marring hammer like this. This is a nylon hammer. I have, in that picture, I put a chasing hammer, and that was not the right hammer to put in that picture. This will actually texturize your wire. It'll give it like a hammered look to it. This won't mar your wire. It won't change the design of it. What it will do, it will harden your wire. So all you do is you would take this on a bench block with your wire and just tap it. So this necklace that I mentioned earlier with that focal wire wrapped bead. So I had mentioned that it has a core to it. So it's a 20 gauge wire on the inside. And because this is a pendant of sorts, I want to make sure that it holds its shape. So what I would do is I would take that piece of wire, put it on my bench block, and tap it to harden it. That way, it'll hold its shape better. It affects the malleability of that wire. Okay. All right, I'm throwing a lot at you here. So the last thing to consider is shape. I actually don't have a ton to say about shapes. I just really wanted to make you aware that there are different shapes of wires. Round wire is the most common wire. It's the most common that you'll find at a craft store. The second kind of most common are half circle wire and square wire. You'll see those, if you look up wire-wrapped jewelry, a lot of times you'll find these beautiful wrapped cabochons or really pretty stones that have been wrapped to create pendants. And those people, a lot of those artists will use a square wire, and it's really a pretty effect. So I personally don't use it, but I did just want to make you aware that there are other shapes of wires as well. Okay. So moving on to tools, these are the tools that I believe are essential to wire wrapping. So there's chain nose pliers, flush cutters, round nose pliers, and bent nose pliers. And your chain nose pliers are probably the most basic tool for jewelry making, not even just wire wrapping. So these have tapered jaws. They're meant for gripping, getting into small spaces, and when you cut the wire, it is there you kind of pinch in the ends with these as well. One thing you want to look for when you're getting chain nose pliers is these. I've had these for like 20 years. These are my like go-to pliers. Even though I love them so much, what I will say about them is that it has a texture on the inside. When you're looking for chain nose pliers, you really want something that's smooth. What the texture will do is when you're manipulating the wire, that texture will actually transfer to your wire. So you really don't want that, but I still grab these all the time, but these are actually better. These smaller, more dainty ones that are smooth on the inside are actually better chain nose pliers. So moving on to flush cutters, these are what you're going to use to cut your wire. These particular flush cutters I really like. They have an angled blade here to them. And all flush cutters are not like this. This one, it has the angle and a pointed tip, so it gets into small spaces. And that's why these ones are really good, because I work with little tiny things, and that's great about getting into the small spaces. But if you look at the actual blade, you'll notice on one side, it slopes down, and on the back side here, it's flat. So what's gonna happen when you use these, you're gonna take a piece of wire, and when you cut it, I don't want that to fly somewhere. This side that was cut has a flat end because it was cut with this flat side. This piece of wire has a more conical end to it. It's going to create that little cone because of that sloped angle on the blade. So when you're making jewelry, when you're cutting it, you want to make sure that the flush side is being left onto your finished piece of jewelry. So you're cutting, this is the part that's going to fly off, the part with the cone. That's going to be your extra. All right. So the next is round nose pliers. And what these pliers do, so these have a little conical shape. These are like a tape or a cone, I guess. And so what these are the tools that makes the loop shape. So kind of what's important to remember about this is when you want to choose the size of your loop, if you want a small loop, you go towards the tip. And if you want a bigger loop, you're going to go closer or closer to the bigger part. If you have a piece of jewelry that you're making a lot of, like this bracelet right here, I needed to make all of these wire wrap loops, and I wanted them all the same size. So a tip to take away is if you take your round nose pliers and make a little Sharpie mark, this is where I need to make my loop in the same place every time. So to get that consistent loop size. Okay. Next are the bent nose pliers. Some people might not think of these as essential. I do. I really like them. What I like about them is so they're very similar to a chain nose plier, but they have this bend on them. And what I find is that I can hold my wire tighter because of that bend. It gives me a little bit more leverage. And it also helps to not have your wrist in a weird position. It kind of had that bend for you. So I use them all the time. I consider them essential. All right, and I will use those later. I'll use all 4 of those later when I'm showing you the wire wrapped loop demonstration. So these are some other tools. These are non-essentials, but I think they're nice to have. I've been making jewelry, like I said, for a long time, and you end up collecting tools over time. There is like that dopamine hit of getting a new tool, and it's real. So I have collected kind of tools over time. So these smaller ones, these are called wrap and tap pliers. They're also called wire loopers. And so what they do is they have these tiered barrels. And you use these if you need to make a loop that's bigger than what your round nose pliers could handle. And I will actually use those as well when I show you the wire wrapped pendant. You get to see those. But again, they're not essential because you can actually get creative. If you need a loop that's bigger than your round nose plier, you can take a Sharpie, you can take a dowel, you can take a paintbrush and wrap a loop around it. You don't need fancy tools all the time, but so, okay. The next one, flat nose pliers. Again, these are great because they have a nice big surface area. They have a smooth inside, like the chain nose pliers. What I use these for is when I need to make a 90-degree angle. That's what they're really nice for. But again, that is also not essential. Okay. This metal file. When you make that cut, when you use your flush cutter and you make that cut and you have a little sharp end, these are great. This is just a small metal file, and you can use that to file off the end, that little sharp piece that you can file off so it smooths down. You can also, again, you can use a nail file or one of those like blocks, like one of these kind of blocks that you get for your nails, stuff you can find around your house. So you don't need to run out and get a metal file. This mandrel over here, this is a ring mandrel. This is made out of metal. If you're interested in making wire-wrapped rings, this is perfect for that. This particular mandrel has, I don't want to drop it. This one has the numbers marked right on it. So if you wanted to make a wire-wrapped ring, you just create it right here on the mandrel, and you can wrap it right around the size that you would need. So it makes it super easy to make a wire-wrapped ring. But again, you could use a marker or a pencil or a Sharpie, but if you wanted that exact size, the mandrel really comes in handy. Okay. So just a little bit of safety. I like to mention safety because I feel like a lot of times in jewelry making demonstrations, safety is really not touched upon. So I always just kind of want to make people aware of it. So again, wire wrapping has a very low danger risk, but it is a good idea to be safe. Wire has been known to travel at a high rate of speed after it's been cut. So wearing eye protection is never a bad idea. If you just have regular glasses, that should be fine. But my glasses have saved me a couple times, so I didn't get a piece of wire in my eye. And also, when you cut that wire, sometimes they do fling and land on the ground, and you always want to make sure that you pick it up because you do not want to catch that in your foot. You find it later. The other thing, again, I touched on this earlier about using that file on the sharp edges. If you're creating jewelry, even just for yourself, but if you're creating jewelry as a gift or you're selling it, you don't want to sell it with rough edges. You don't want to hurt anyone. You don't want to ruin anyone's clothes. So use that file to get the edges down. You can use, again, the metal file, the nail file, and using the flush cutter will lessen the chance of those sharp ends. But it's not always perfect, especially mine. I could use new ones, so they're getting a bit dull. And they actually, when they're dull, they don't make the best, a nice sharp cut. So I maybe get a new tool, might be exciting. Okay, so I want to demonstrate what the heck I've been talking about. So this is a wire-wrapped loop. I'll do a hands-on demonstration, or not necessarily hands-on, my hands-on. I'm going to sit down because I'm going to need both hands. And hopefully the microphone will be able to pick up my voice. The materials that I used for this, I used 24 gauge sterling silver head pins. I'm going to actually use a different head pin for the demonstration, just
The live people in the audience, if you want to come up a little closer,
just so that you can
totally do that.
Just so that you can see it. So I used head pins. If you're not familiar with what a head pin is, it's a straight piece of wire, and there's a little piece on the bottom that prevents the bead from slipping off. I use chain nose plier. These are my 4 essential tools. My chain nose plier, my flush cutters, my round nose pliers, and my bent nose pliers. Okay? So first I'm going to put my bead on my head pin. And do you think this will be okay? Okay. And I'm going to take my round nose pliers and go as close to the bead as I can. And you just, okay. It makes it a little bit easier. So step 2, I'm going to use my finger and I'm going to bend the wire at a 90-degree angle. And then I'll take my round nose pliers and rotate them so that one of the cones is on the top and one is under the wire. So this is the part where when you're making a loop, you want to consider how big the loop is. So if I'm going to say I want a medium-sized loop, I'm going to put it in the middle of my pliers. So I'm going to wrap that wire around, and you see that loop starting to form. So again, I'm going to take it out, and now I rotated my pliers, and I just took that bottom tail and wrapped it around the bottom. So now I have a full loop, but it's still open, it's not closed. So again, this is the point where if you're going to attach this loop to a piece of jewelry, or if you want to attach it to another, if you wanted to make a chain like this and you needed to attach it to another link, it's at this point where you're going to do that. But I'm not going to do that, I'm going to close it up. So I'm going to take my bent nose pliers, I will hold the loop nice and strong, and take my chain nose pliers, and that little tail I'm just going to wrap around. And this will usually take about 2 to 4 rotations until you touch the bead. I'm going to take that off. So now I have this little excess piece of wire. I'm going to take my flush cutters, and that flat part I'm going to position so that it's on the side of the finished piece of jewelry, or the finished component. I don't want that to fly around. So I just snipped that. And what happens now, I have this little, kind of a little sharp edge or a little tiny tail. I'm going to take my chain nose pliers, and all you do is you just tuck it in there. And that's it. So now this is ready to attach to whatever. You can make this into an earring. You can attach it as a necklace. So that's a wire wrapped loop. That's, to me, kind of the basic. This is kind of the basic start of building upon to making something a little bit more complicated. All right. So if you can master the wire wrap loop, you can let your creativity take over and make beautiful things. So these are some things that I've made just using that wire wrap loop. So just simple stuff. You can just attach a gemstone to a chain. The middle on the top, those are earrings, actually similar to the ones I have on. I created the ear wires. I used a thicker gauge wire to make the ear wire, and then I attached the wire wrapped loop turquoise to make little dangles. And this is actually this bracelet right here. So this is a couple hours worth of wrapping those wires. So it's really like your creativity is you can't stop that. So wherever you want to go with this, you can make really pretty things. Okay. So this one would be a little harder. These are wire wrapped pendants. So I'm going to show you how to do this. This was on the picture, I guess on the flyer, the picture of these 2 pendants. So these were 2 beads that were just too big to do anything else with. So I said I want to make them pendants. And what I did was I took 20 gauge gold craft wire. I have a faceted jasper stone bead. I took I have my chain nose pliers. I have my small wrap and tap pliers. And my flush cutters. Okay, so let's see, all right. So I am going to take about 18 inches of wire to make, this is a fairly big bead, so 18 inches is good. Okay, I snip that off. And this little tool I didn't mention earlier, but it's kind of neat. It's a very weird This is actually a wire straightener. It's these 3 little rollers that you just take, and it'll actually help you take like the kinks out of wires. Not like something fully bent, but okay, kind of neat little tool. All right, so I'm going to go down a few inches. I'm going to take my wrap and tap pliers, and I'm going to wrap it around twice. Get caught on the table here. I like these because they have one side of them is nylon, so it really grips your the metal, and again, it doesn't mar it. So now I have this double loop wire right here, and this is going to be my bail. So the loop on the top of a pendant is called a bail. So that's what I'm going to refer to it as. I'm going to put this back on. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take the shorter side and just wrap it around with one full rotation. And that's going to secure that bail so it doesn't unravel itself. Okay, so now we're on step 3. So we have this double looped bail, and we have this small little tail intact. I'm going to take my bead, and I'm going to thread this longer tail into the bead. And if you had, this is a great technique to use if you had something, you picked up on the beach, you picked up a stone or a shell or something that you wanted to wrap, that obviously wouldn't have a hole in the middle. You can just kind of start wrapping, just take out that step of, but this is a kind of a neat way to make those things into a pendant. So we're at this part, and this is step 4. What I want to make sure, I want this to be a functional pendant. So I want to make sure that that bail is positioned correctly so that I can put a cord or a wire or a chain in there to hang it. So I want to make sure that it's kind of opened on the side there. And it wants to slip, but I will hold it. All right, so now, step 5, all I'm going to do is you take the wire and just start wrapping it. This is kind of where you can just make your own design. You want to make sure it stays tight though, so I'm really kind of holding it down and I'm wrapping. Okay. And what I didn't mention is you want to go under the back and come up the front. Okay. And so I'm going to wrap it around 3 times. And then I'm going to come up the back. So when you're wrapping it, you want to end in the back. You want this long tail to end in the back. I want to make sure that's pulled tight. And you want to stop. I'm doing 3 because I kind of knew to do 3, but you want to make sure that you have plenty of this longer tail, because we're going to wrap it around the bottom of the bail. So you want to make sure that you have plenty to do so. All right, so now I'm going to take that longer tail and just wrap it around once, the bottom of that bail, and just wrap it around once, just to secure it. Okay. And now I'm going to take my flush cutter, and I'm going to snip off this little tail. And the reason I kept this tail on is because just in case I didn't have enough of this wire, I could have used this piece to kind of supplement that wrap to create, to finish off the bail. But I had plenty, so I can snip that off. So now all I'm going to do is take this piece of wire and just wrap. And I like to do it kind of in an organic way. It doesn't have to be. These particular pendants, I like my wire wraps. Like when I do stuff like this, I get kind of type A and like them to really uniform, but with this, I like a more organic look. So you're gonna wrap it around. And again, you wanna end in the back. So you wanna pay attention to how much wire you have. So if you are at a point where you think, I can't make one more full rotation where it will end up in the back, just stop there and snip off the excess. So I'm here at the back and I don't know if I'd be able to go around once more. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna snip this part off. And I'm gonna take my chain nose pliers and just tuck that little tail in. I don't want that snagging on anybody. And there you have it. And you can kind of go back in and just kind of round things out a little bit. Make sure it's laying where you want it to. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry, I forgot to forward the presentation. But so this is this is an extra additional step. So if I kind of find like, oh, my wire is like not really super tight, what I can do is you can start in the back. You can take your chain nose pliers and just kind of crank down. You just take it and you just bend it just a little bit, and you can kind of like crank down that wire. And what it does is tightens it, and it also kind of makes it's a design choice. It's kind of a neat little look. So if you like that for the front, you could do it in the front as well. So it kind of changes but you want to make sure you're doing it in a way where it's actually tightening the wire and not loosening it. Okay, so there you go. That is a wire wrapped pendant. Easy peasy. So these are lots of things that I've created over the years. So I say keep practicing and find the joy in making pretty things. So all of these things include some kind of wire wrapping. That's the wire wrapped ring I was telling you about to use on that mandrel. This is called a herringbone weave. I feel like it's an underutilized wire wrapping technique, so I wanted to put it up there. This is a neat, like a bird's nest that I made to represent someone's 3 children. So yeah, it's all where your creativity will take you. So that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So usually after these, we have a little question period. Do you guys have any questions for the artist?
So since when I was in their art school from Cardozo High School, so I was making from jewelry with doing bracelets or the earrings.
I couldn't hear. I'm sorry. I might come over to you.
What's been you making for the diamonds, or do we have necklace, bracelets, or earrings?
What would you need? I'm sorry.
Why they do have earrings, or they have rings, or bracelets?
I make all of them. Is that what you're asking?
They have diamonds.
Oh, to make diamonds? Oh, that's definitely not at my level. So I love to use I love to use gemstones, or I love to use beads. It's in my name of my business, but I actually love a good crystalline gemstone. I love going to like a bead show or a gem show and just staring at all the crystals. But I will say that like jewelry smithing or metal smithing, that is kind of beyond my skill set right now. I know how to do it. I did train on it, but this is I like that casual kind of everyday look. I am a mom, so I like that stuff that I can kind of wear every day. But I would love maybe one day to be that good.
I was making a bracelet. I was making earrings or bracelets, or another earrings. I was in Cardozo High School.
Oh, you used to make them too.
Awesome. Yeah. Did you make your earrings?
She did.
I love them. They're a beautiful statement piece. Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
That's the best part about making jewelry, is that you can design pieces for yourself. So
Well, I have I have two questions for you.
Okay.
What is your favorite piece that you've made, like, in the past year?
Actually, I'm really proud of this focal wire wrapped piece. You know, when you have an idea and it just like comes together, and I actually really, I'm gonna take this for myself. That kind of happens a lot too, but I'll make more of these. But yeah, I think this was one of those days where I was like, I think I'm gonna make a wire bead, and again, it was just kind of trial and error, and I tried it and I liked it. And I love making wire wrapped chain. Like, I can make this for hours. There's like a zen to it when you're just making those links over and over. This gets boring after a while, but it does make a pretty bracelet.
Okay, so my final question is, do you have any shows or markets coming up? Where can we find you?
Yeah, so I sell online. My 24/7, you can shop on my website. I do have one market that I have coming up on May 5th. I will be at Rio in Gaithersburg, Maryland. I'll be there. It's a great show. If you've never been up that way, it's a really great show.
All right. Thank you all so much for coming to this month's Maker Talk. We do have another Maker Talk coming up next month in May. It's in conjunction with the fact that we're currently showing Felix Gonzalez Torres' artwork, Untitled America, in New Books. So the Maker Talk for next month is going to be with Madeline of Light Bright Neon Studio. And Madeline actually helps preserve this piece of lighted art, which is a string of lights. So that's going to be on May 27th. It's going to be in New Books instead of down here where we mostly have the Maker Talks. All right. Thank you all so much.